because we used those names. We were that person all day long.
Oh my
And we were
God.
building fences, doing this and breaking things up, and having just a wonderful time. And we could amuse ourselves, you know. And then, of course, down in his basement, his dad had made the most beautiful, elaborate plywood, two 4x8 sheets together on sawhorses, so they were only about that off the floor. Had two small little chairs we could sit in, and there were the controls.
For the
and there
trains.
were two sets of electric trains.
Oh,
But they had, he and his dad and the next door neighbor, Bill Shear, had made mountains and then colored them and painted them and tunnels and so forth. You had a passenger set of Lionel trains and a set of commercial tanker trucks, things like that, boxcars. And we would be down there for hours, making up imagination stories, running the trains, doing business and so forth.
Oh, how
And when we got bored with that, we got into the chemical set. And we used his basement because there was a sink right there in the bathroom.
Right.
And my dad was a teacher at Stuyvesant High, who went to the head of the chemistry department and says, I need some test tubes and stuff. So he came home loaded, and we had a laboratory down in Jib's cellar where we made two items that rhymed. What were they?
Oh, test time.
Be humbled.
I'm glad I'm the photographer on
know.
hand of
Are you
this.
ready?
I'm ready.
Ink and stink. But
Oh, my
when Dad
goodness.
made the rack up with to dry the test tubes, you know,
Oh,
we
my God.
we never needed anybody else. We had fertile imaginations,
Yeah.
and we got along. As I say, we never had a crossword, and we had a lot of fun.
Oh.
And,
You've told me more about his childhood than I knew before.
what's that?
You've told me more about his childhood
Yeah.
than he told us.
Oh,
I mean, he would tell us
I
some
wouldn't
things,
be surprised.
but he was such a quiet
Yeah.
man.
Well, I brought him home injured twice.
You did.
Yeah, we went ice skating on Casino Lake. It's a city park,
Sure, I remember.
and it was like early evening, and we would hike 6 or 8 blocks from our house around the Flushing Cemetery,
Right.
down to Casino
Right.
Park, and we were ice skating there late afternoon actually this time, and he'd never seen a whip, or I had never seen a whip either. That's where a bunch of guys get together, and they
Oh,
hook
yes,
up,
and
and
hold
one
on
guy
hands.
faces them,
Right.
and they skate like Sandro, and all of a sudden the guy stops and pivots, and the line goes around and snaps.
Yeah, the centrifugal
Well,
force
anybody at
knocks
the end of
everybody
that
off.
gets propelled like a rocket.
Oh,
And
was that him?
He didn't realize that, and he found himself, he was not a great skater. He was athletically forgiving.
Listen, he had bad feet and
He
ankles
can't be
from when he was
everything.
born,
He had
right?
born brains, okay. But he got on the end of the thing, and it picked up speed, and the trouble is he wanted to let go, but the guy wouldn't let him get loose. The
Oh.
last guy was holding on to him. Finally, when the whip snapped, he broke loose, and he shot across the ice, his legs folded up, and he was wearing, I don't know where the hell he got them, racing skates, which have long
Ooh.
ribs, and he folded his leg and
Into the
jabbed
skate.
in here, went through his cloth, and ripped the whole V-shaped thing right in his leg here.
Oh.
Fortunately, it wasn't a hell of a lot of blood, you know. And we changed him into his shoes. Fortunately, not bleeding enough
that's good.
to call an ambulance or something, but it was a nasty one. We got home, they had to take him down to Flushing Hospital, have it stowed up, stuff like that, you
Yeah.
know. But that's the kind of stuff that we shared.
Yeah. It's,
What was the other time you brought him home, Ed?
What's that say?
You said twice you brought him, had to bring him home injured. What was the other injury?
Look, wait a minute.
What was the other injury was? You said you had to bring him home twice. Do
Oh,
you remember?
yes, that was in Central City, Colorado. It was just before 4th of July. The house that I accompanied them out there in the summer of '34. And I was just turning 13 that summer. So he's 6 months younger. So he's, 12 and a half. And when we got to Central City, where his dad was president of Russell Gulch Mining Company, And the mine they were running was the Pittsburgh mine. See, I can't
Pittsburgh.
remember your name. But
Debbie.
But what I'm saying,
It's fine.
You see what happens?
Yeah, but your long-term memory is
His long-term memory is
fantastic.
spectacular.
Absolutely spectacular.
we-
That's what counts right now.
When we drove out there, which is a whole nother experience, because that was the years of the dust storms.
Yes.
And there were no interstates.
Right.
We had a Chrysler car, a nice one. Jim's dad was a crackerjack driver. And by the way, in my lifetime, I have 3 men that I rank. He knows one of them better than you would. My father, my scoutmaster, and my best friend's father.
Mm. Wow. And
And
you know what? I know so little about my grandfather, about
He was
Dad's father.
a nifty.
Just a few stories.
Well,
He died before I was born.
when we got there, the house that was being prepared for us, cleaned up, they hadn't finished yet. So we stayed at the local chain of mines hotel.
Okay.
There were actually 2 hotels in that little town, mining town. And the chain of mines are right at the main corner there. And at the front entrance, they have a large door that opens into this, it's at a corner. And then there's a little foyer in there, and then swinging glass doors. And you need that because in the wintertime, the air is so cold, you open the door, the whole lobby would go. See, I got Jim Wile out here, he's just cut his wrist on some broken glass down at the house. I think it needs a look at. He says, okay, just sit down, I'll be right out. He turns around and he says, the guy, let's see.
Hello?
He makes a deliberate move. I got a guy bleeding. He's making this move.
Hey there.
Whoops, we got more people. In any case, we got him sewn up.
Oh my goodness.
So he and I went through all the, who have I got?
I'm
here?
going to interrupt. I'm Jennifer.
Oh, good to see you.
We've been speaking.
Yes, we're on speaking
I
terms.
Good
heard
friends now.
you're good friends now.
Welcome
Hi,
aboard.
nice to
Jennifer,
meet you.
we've
Thank you
emailed.
for coming. Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, honey.
I'm Cecilia.
Dave,
Jack Bear.
Hey,
Hi,
Dave,
Jack, how are
are you putting jackets way down there?
Yep.
Keep in mind,
Is that right?
I will forget your name. It's not a deliberate snub or anything, but this part of my brain is disconnected.
Okay.
It's the bottom line. And I can quote people from 60 years ago, and, you know,
Which
there's
is
no
lucky for
problem at
us.
all.
Yes.
But for instance, your first name again?
Jonathan.
Jonathan, okay.
We need,
You see,
he
what I'm
asked me to
saying,
get name tags and
and
he said I didn't.
5 minutes later, I might,
It would have been good.
I do that now when I haven't had a stroke.
I
I
have,
know,
to,
we
I
all
have
said
to
that.
explain it. I have to explain it because it's embarrassing unless somebody knows.
Right.
It's not a snub, it's just that
Yeah.
the machinery doesn't work that way.
Don't be embarrassed.
You know, I have to take up the right sides with you. Hold the phone. I think it's right here. The Troop 1 Flushing book.
Your father wrote this at 16.
At
It's
16?
an excellent book.
He wrote the whole book?
He wrote the whole
Oh,
thing.
wow.
He was
And that is
the
almost
smartest
a
guy in
mint-
Troop 1.
A mint
He was
copy,
very smart.
it's yours to circulate within the family. There's only one thing missing from it. In the picture showing Troop 1 Flushing, there's a space where my face was. For some reason or other, over the years, I needed a picture of me small.
Oh,
to
you
put
see
somewhere.
that?
I
Oh,
cut
that's
it out
funny.
of
Probably
fear.
ended up in your wife's locket or something.
I think, yes, I think it was.
Oh,
I think it
well,
was
that's
exactly, I think you
okay.
put your finger on, it was a
'Cause that's the only thing you
Christmas
can eat that
present or
small.
something like that. I know that on our 51st birthday,
This is a
she got a
16-year-old.
bottle of ketchup.
Troop 1 of Flushing is one of
For
the
birthday-
oldest
for
troops in the
breakfast.
Boy Scouts of America.
What does that
It
mean?
was formed when the borough of
bottle of
Queens was a
ketchup for
mass of
breakfast?
scattered individual communities, each proudly adhering
Look
to
at
its
the
old
ketchup
name
bottle
and
sometimes.
heritage.
See the
Oh my
label.
They grew up
Goodness.
together, the troop
51
and the
grand or
borough.
something.
16.
Yeah.
It's on the
16.
label. You got it.
Apply.
It's
Thank
yours.
you.
Test,
Do you wanna
and it
take
was
a look at
awarded
it,
to just
Craig?
2 vets in each
It's
state,
incredible.
and he got one of them.
I'm not
And that's how
surprised.
we ended up going to
David,
Columbia
this is so
for his
kind of you.
library
Thank you.
degree, his second
Been
master's.
expecting you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Today's the day we should have wore the same sweaters.
I know, right?
You both look very dapper, I have to say.
We have a gag going. I came down this morning, I saw that sweater. I got the identical one. I said,
Good
let's go to a restaurant, have lunch and say, have you met my brother?
I like it.
Let me start this one going around this way. This is, you're in this one, Jack, I think back here? No, you're not.
Was
In any
it
case,
Old Timers Dinner picture?
yeah, this is, I'll let him explain that one.
Yeah, there's Jack in that one.
That's his department.
He was so disappointed when he couldn't go anymore.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Start this way. These
Oh,
are. I told you we have an annual Old Timers Dinner.
Yes.
Okay. So obviously this is Ed.
Right.
And this guy is the artist of that book. He drew the
Oh.
front pictures.
Oh, that's neat.
Rich Cowgie.
Sorry, Doug.
Lives out in Seaport or something like that.
That's so
This guy's a
nice.
guy named Carl Rockefeller. He had a brother who died while he was Boy Scout in the troop,
Here's the-
and he lives in New Jersey. And he's not related to the Rockefellers.
Okay.
And I forget this guy's name. He's since passed away. Okay.
Did I ask
And-
you if you were familiar with the Oh My God road? The
Are you
road by
kidding?
Grandma
Oh,
used
You
to
Steve
kidding,
call-
really?
Yeah, Grandma used to call it.
I have
The Oh My
19,
God.
The one
I
in
have
Central
19
City?
effective stories about that road.
Oh.
I've been up and down it so many times, it scared the hell out of more than one person. Oh, yes, indeed. Instantly, kids, here is a picture, I got two of them here. This one I'll pass around first. This is an area from a hillside looking down at the Pittsburgh mine. And the little building in the front that's half gone was the business office.
Okay.
All right, there's a reason I mention that. In the back, the building on the left is the blacksmith shop, and then the next building is where the hoist was, and the next building down here is where the mill was. It goes from left to right, and this is in Colorado at the Russell Gulch is the geographic location.
Yeah.
And the mining company was the Russell Gulch Mining Company. And,
Of which he was president, you said.
he was president of it, yeah. And, but I got this from somewhere, and it's very good actually. And there's another one here, but I'll just pass that one around. And the last time I was out there, my wife and I had a lovely trailer, and we used to spend every winter in the West cruising around for years and years.
Lovely.
I've made, I think, 32 or 33 trips across the United States in my lifetime.
Wow.
Never scraped a fender. And, but we would invite our grandkids to come out and spend a couple of weeks with us doing it. And I have one little one up here who's now married and has two lovely children and so forth. And she's the closest to me. She's still around here. And my son, unfortunately, my oldest son, is an adopted. My first two children, our first two children, were adopted, boy and a girl. The boy is currently head of the cardiac division. He's not a doctor, he's the administrator for the cardiac division of the Montefiore hospital chain.
Oh my gosh.
And you got 5 or 6 hospitals,
Yeah.
but you want something with your heart, you go to him.
All right, good to
Right
know.
now, I'm wearing one of his tickers right here. Keeps it
Mm.
going. And the second was my daughter. We adopted her. She's blue-eyed, red-haired, and yes, everything that goes with it. Dynamite. She was the vice president of CNBC up until a couple of years
Wow.
ago. Until the Redstone bought it out and tried to bring in somebody that he thought should be given a job. Since she waltzed out of there, she started with CBS. She worked her way up, but she's known in that field, so she gave the goodbye to NBC, where she's the vice president, and now she freelances and makes twice as much money.
Oh, good for her.
And don't ask me what she does. She doesn't tell me what she does. You didn't know that.
No, you told me already, but I
okay,
didn't know
did,
that.
Yeah. When I keep referring to your father's Jim.
That's
By the way,
great.
We
tell
love
them what
that.
Jim means. Do you guys know what Jim means?
Did you
Tell us
him?
again.
I told you
Tell
I
us
wrote-
again.
I
You
wrote
told
to
me
him.
in the email, you knew right away, you
Yeah.
said that's a cinch.
Yeah,
but-
we
When
did
he was a
know.
little kid, in crib, I assume, if they came over and like tickled him or something like that, or say jib, jib, jib like that, he'd grin and
Okay.
blossom, okay? They found out that was the key to make him laugh, make him respond, and so they come to the edge of his bassinet or whatever it was, like, jibby, 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 and he'd go lighten up like a Christmas tree and get a reaction from it. And eventually, that's all the name meant, it was a way to tease him into
And
responding.
it stuck.
Do you wanna know what's funny? We didn't say jib to my daughter, but Elizabeth, to make her laugh, we used to put her on her knee and bounce her and go, hibby, 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 hibby.
Ah,
Whoa.
it's inherited.
Yeah. And then,
Met.
I would say 7 or 8 years old. We were a block down from one another,
Okay.
and anything before that, I had no business walking across the street, so I
Uh-huh.
would not gotten to his block of houses. But I think it was a 7 or 8, somewhere like that. And we were a team, and everyone recognized it. We were inseparable. And as I mentioned to someone before when you first came in, we never had a crossword. Truthfully, we never argued over a toy. We never argued over a book. We never argued over a sports decision.
Uh-huh.
We always, controversy was not part of our makeup at all. We were like the closest thing to two brothers, and both my parents and his parents often refer to us. Jane would call up my mother, Mayor, is Jimmy Stark there at the house? Yeah. Would you tell him it's time for dinner now? Yeah, my mother would do the same thing, calling back. You know, is Eddie Wile at your house? And so, yet the two mothers were not tight. They were not
Right.
close. They came from two different backgrounds.
Were you close with my grandmother? 'Cause-
Oh, good God, yes, indeed. You must understand.
Cause we only know her as an older woman who was not very easy to be close to.
But try
No.
this for apples. Yeah, she was a little dicey at times, but
a little spicy,
Another
that was
story.
dicey.
But when we had this rented house in Central City, Colorado, okay, it was an old building, and the stove in the kitchen was soft coal, and the hot water heater had to be heated in kettles. And in those days, these miners' families were big. They had kids, you know, they had no television, so what else are you gonna do at night? In any case, they had this huge bathtub. And so apparently, if it was a typical family, 18 kids or something like that, they'd have to fill a tub once a week or so to afford to get the hot water in it, and then you douse them all once a week or so.
Yeah, don't throw the baby out with the
And
dishwater.
this great big long bathtub was in the house on Eureka Street, where I lived with them when they first rented a place. I have pictures of that, so either here or somewhere. And in fact, there's a picture of me standing as a grown adult in front of it. In any case, this great big long bathtub. And Jane used to put the two of us in once a week, whether we needed it or not.
Wait till he tells you how old we
And
were.
it was long enough that we could stretch out and our feet just crossed at the ankles.
Wow.
That's a long
That's big
bathtub.
bathtub.
That's because they used to big families. They used to fill it once every Saturday night, and everybody got dipped in it.
Everybody up
And that
does.
was it, was efficiency. So, as I say, we had this big bathtub, and Jim and I would stretch out, and his mother would come in, and she was like my mother, for God's sakes, you know. And we'd do the bit, and that was the lifestyle. So I have a picture of myself somewhere around here, standing in front of the house.
Uh-huh.
But it was, let me start this one going around this way. This is, you're in this one, Jack, I think back here? No, you're not. In any case,
Old timers did a picture?
yeah, this is, I'll let him explain that one.
Yeah,
That's-
there's Jack in that one.
That's his department.
He was so disappointed when he couldn't go anymore.
Yes, Lucas, right here,
Okay.
start this way. These
Oh,
are, I tell you, we have an annual old timers dinner.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously this is Ed.
Right.
And this guy is the artist of that book. He drew the
Oh.
front pictures.
Oh, that's neat.
Rich Cowgie,
So I did.
lives out in Seaport or something like that.
That's
This
so
guy's a guy
nice.
named Carl Rockefeller. He had a brother who died while he was a Boy Scout in the
Oh.
troop,
Here, see.
and he lives in New Jersey. He's not related to the Rockefellers.
Okay.
And I forget this guy's name. He's since passed away. Okay.
Did I ask
And-
you if you were
Yeah.
familiar with the Oh My God Road? The
Are you
road my
kidding?
grandma
Are
Oh,
you
used to
secret
kidding,
John.
really?
Yeah, grandma used to call it.
I have
The- oh my
19,
God.
The one
I
in
have
Central
19
City?
effective stories about that road.
Oh.
I've been up and down it so many times, it scared the hell out of more than one person. Oh, yes, indeed. Instantly, kids, here is a picture, I got two of them here. This one I'll pass around first. This is an area from a hillside looking down at the Pittsburgh mine. And the little building in the front that's half gone was the business office.
Okay.
All right, there's a reason I mention that. In the back, the building on the left is the blacksmith shop, and then the next building is where the hoist was, and the next building down here is where the mill was. It goes from left to right, and this is in Colorado at the Russell Gulch is the geographic location.
Yeah.
And the mining company was the Russell Gulch Mining Company. And,
Of which he was president, you said.
he was president of it, yeah. And, but I got this from somewhere, and it's very good actually. And there's another one here, but look, I'll just pass that one around. And the last time I was out there, my wife and I had a lovely trailer, and we used to spend every winter in the West cruising around for years
Oh,
and years.
lovely.
I've made, I think, 32 or 33 trips across the United States in my lifetime.
Wow.
Never scraped a fender. And, but we would invite our grandkids to come out and spend a couple of weeks with us doing it. And I have one little one up here who's now married and has two lovely children and so forth. And she's the closest to me. She's still around here. And my son, unfortunately, my oldest son, is an adopted. My first two children, our first two children,
Yeah.
were adopted, boy and a girl. The boy is currently head of the cardiac division. He's not a doctor, he's the administrator for the cardiac division of the Montefiore hospital chain.
Oh my gosh.
And you got 5 or 6 hospitals,
Yeah.
but you want something with your heart, you go to him.
All right, good to
Right
know.
now, I'm wearing one of his tickers right here. Keeps it
Mm.
going. And the second was my daughter. We adopted her. She's blue-eyed, red-haired, and yes, everything that goes with it. Dynamite. She was the vice president of CNBC up until a couple of years
Wow.
ago. Until the Redstone bought it out and tried to bring in somebody that he thought should be given a job. So she waltzed out of there. She started with CBS. She worked her way up, but she's known in that field. So she gave the goodbye to NBC, where she's the vice president, and now she freelances and makes twice as much money.
Oh, good for
And
her.
don't ask me what she does. She doesn't tell me what she does. He who does work for me, and he took a full spool. He said, "It's not on there." He's taken what he does. He converts all
Yeah.
old, like a family junk, like we all have.
Yeah, sure.
I have them converted to discs now, and but somewhere now it could be some of that is so old now that it's kaput.
Yeah.
I have not stopped trying.
Oh,
I wanna
thank you.
get-
Oh, I would hope that
But-
you find it.
What I'm saying is, I was there when it happened, and I know the film. I've seen it. It existed once, and I'm trying to find out how I can track it down.
Well, if you
And-
can, that'd be great.
But it is.
But you're such a good
it's thrilling.
storyteller. I feel
It's
like
thrilling. But
we could see it
he was
already.
a hell of a man, because he knew smeltering like nobody else, and he plugged the thing up and stepped back carefully and so forth. And it took forever to get that cooled down and squared away. But the unit remained there, and I had a travel camp business. So for every year, I was taking teenage boys across the country, and one of the stops on my trips was all the way Central City, Colorado. So I ended up, the house that we lived in is gone. It's just a little cabin that's gone. But I have camped out with my kids from this area in tents, right where I used to sit and look out over the hills. Many, many times. Every one of them has been down to the mine, and I'm the expert to show them how the mine worked with
Oh,
the
that's so
tailing
cool.
pines
They
and
must
stuff
have
like
loved
that.
that.
And when one time my family was out there with me, and two of my sons were old enough, I had a deer rifle in the back of the car for, I don't know what reason, but we went down and we set up targets in the old drainage, there's your own personal picture of the mine.
I know Dad had, he was buying stuff on eBay, you know,
Yeah, because
just
of Central City stuff.
compiling.
You
all the
recognize the
Central
guy
City
in the
stuff.
foreground of that?
Yes.
Okay. You recognize the guy in the background of that?
Vaguely.
All right, now here, oh, we broke into, before he was diagnosed with the disease, the nervous disorder, we broke into the old post office in Nevadaville, which is a ghost town. And there were buildings there, and we took a pry bar, and we broke into the lock off the back. We went in the dark with our Coleman lights, the cowboy lights. We went in there, the floor was covered with soggy old letters and stuff like that. There was a huge safe that somebody had dynamited open, and all the letters that were left over were scattered. Here's a clip here. I have these original letters, and you see it says Ball Mountain. Ball Mountain is the same as Nevadaville. It's a ghost town. It's a mile from Central City.
Okay.
A couple of people live there now, but in those days, it was a genuine ghost town. And we went up, honest engine, we broke into the basement of what was the post office. We were looking for stamps. And so we found all these letters, and like jackasses, we threw the letters away. You know,
Kept the stamps.
we threw the
Kept the
letters,
stamp, kept the envelopes.
we threw the letters away. We wanted the stamps, okay? Now I have these, the real ones, inside. I made copies, these are for you.
Oh, thanks.
Because my son, one of my sons now has my stamp collection, and I want to send them to him. I really don't think they're valuable. But in any case, these are that, and then over here, this picture is a picture of the Teller House, and that is that's the Opera House, I think, excuse me, I'm sorry. And there's some written stuff over here about Central City. This is a famous Face on the Barroom Floor. You ever heard that ballad?
Oh, tell them the
No.
story though. This is so cool.
Do you know that one?
You have-
Places in the West that claim this. It can't be all three. So take it with a grain of salt. This may be the one, it may not be, I don't know. But it's as old as I know. But this is a Teller House. It looks like it's next door to that's the Opera House. But it's right down the street from where we lived on Eureka Street. And the story was, it's a hotel. You come in the first floor, there's a bar. Now, who's been served in the bar? My own daughter, when she was 11, I took her and I bought her a Shirley Temple. My granddaughter, when she was 10 or 11, I took her and bought her. So two of my family were introduced to a real Western bar by Grandpa. I'm plead guilty. But we went in, you go into the bar, and it's mahogany, it's definitely 19th century stuff. And there on the floor is a spotlight on the ceiling to an area about big around, and there were 4 wood-turned polished pillars, mahogany, varnished, and then a thing with a brass rail that goes around the top, and that light focuses. And on the floor is a colored picture of an attractive blonde lady. Lovely, pretty girl's head right there. The story, and this is all right here, the story is that a drunk came in, he's penniless, he asked for a drink, and they wouldn't give him one, so he said, I'll do something to earn it. He got down on his hands and knees, took out some chalk from his pocket, and it supposedly painted the picture of the woman who was ultimately his downfall. Yeah? Get the message? A little glamour in there. And to get this whole thing, and the picture there, and just as he finished it, he had a heart attack and died, fell across the picture. That's the story. After they removed him, and it became a story and so forth. There's a ballad of Face on the Barroom Floor. This Central City is one of the places. And then they varnished it so it wouldn't be, and it's still there. You go there today, and there's a light over this thing with a little frame around it, so forth. But both my daughter and granddaughter were baptized in that bar. And my dad with Dynamite. Dynamite was my donkey. I rented it for 50 cents a week from a kid in town. And I see this is the same thing. And these are more of the letter. Oh, by the way, look at the handwriting on that. It's not a quill pen, but that's done with a steel pen, I'm sure. By the way,
Look at
the
that.
address in some of these things
Yeah,
is the
beautiful.
Nebraska territory. This is before Colorado was a state.
Oh, wow.
So some of these, this will be fun for you to read.
Yeah.
Go over this. It's a
Absolutely.
reproduction, but everything is authentic. And look at it, and you'll find out that's. Oh, here, wait a minute. Here's one here.
Well, that's my dad on his donkey.
Well, that could that could be the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That's in front of our house because here's the other one. Here's the other one right here. Look. Now this is myself with the neighbor kids. That's out in front of the house. And this is your dad and me. This is him. This is me. He's wearing his miner's hat. And we're in the top of Mount Evans. You ever heard of Mount Evans?
No.
It's 14,260 feet. See, there's nothing wrong with my brain.
That's pretty high.
14,260 feet high. It is the highest automobile road on the North American continent.
That's the Oh My God road?
Yes. No. I'm
No?
sorry. No.
Okay.
No, that's Virginia Canyon Road. That's the one. But this one, this is the highest road. It's in the mountains there. It's about 20 miles away. And it's, I've been up there so many times, it's a joke now because all my Western trips, by my age, I ran the business for 14 years, so a lot of kids back and forth. But we always made the table there. Jack, you're not in this one. But what's the name of the Scoutmaster from New Jersey?
Carl Rockefeller.
Yes, that's right. He's in this one. Yep. And Walt Stewart is in this too. Yeah. So there's, and this is myself standing in front as a grown adult.
I was thinking the pictures the same. Nice.
Now that's the house we lived in.
In Colorado?
Yeah. And this is, I'm a grown adult, so this is years later. And for a number of years, they had a sign that they called it the Sauer, S-A-U-E-R, the Sauer House. I don't know where that name came
They
from.
were Spode. They came.
Never mind
Oh,
Spode.
Coolidge
The White House ones?
No.
No. Okay.
He was given the contract, the British contacted Grandpa up there, Grandpa Road that would be. They contacted him to put the gold work on the coronation set for King Edward VIII, who abdicated for the woman I love. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got the set, the set that was for his coronation was made in England, beautiful stuff. And they sent the whole thing over to Grandpa to put the gold work because he was the best in the
No
world.
kidding.
And he had a studio out back. And he was in his 70s, and I watched him take nothing but sable brushes, dip it in liquid gold. This is a fine gold shreds with a paint material to hold together, okay, but pure gold. Take a brush, take a cup, and he'd start like this, and he could turn it around and put a band on it, and the two ends came like that.
Wow.
Yeah, he was.
Unbelievable!
Wow.
I've seen it. And then, when it was all done, he had the little kilns there to bake it on, and he shipped it back to England. Now, when they wanted the coronation set for Edward VIII, who abdicated for the woman I love, they sent it over, and they sent a couple of extra dishes and cups in case one broke. Do any of you have any of those?
We have a lot of great-grandpa's china, but I don't know.
There's a lot of
Well, look
people in
for-
that family.
Yeah.
Look for it. That's the story of it.
I'm currently emailing Stephanie Rowe, who is a cousin who is like the Rowe family historian,
Yeah.
who knows all about James Albert. And
Okay.
if anyone knows about it, she will.
Well, that's the way it was. And they had two dogs. One was a beautiful collie, and the other was a little brown Boston bull. His name was Mixie or Trixie, something like that. But the important thing is this little bull. This is grandma, grandma,
Oh, they had the dogs.
grandpa Rowe had this lovely little house. They had in the studio out back. They had these two domestic. Well, we understand. I went with them,
Yeah.
and we drove up there. I was there 2 or 3 times. We drove up in a Flint was the name of the make car, big sedan car. Okay. Now, if you go up there on Route 6, that's where they used to go up.
Uh-huh.
There's part of the place after you leave Danbury, 5 or 6 miles north of Danbury, the kind of man I would want to have meet with me in a tight spot. Okay, that's very throttling.
Nice.
The trouble is, he didn't know me enough to make it. And I didn't give a damn what Roosevelt said. What is important is, I was with them in an overnight at the big hotel in the city, Waldorf Astoria.
Yeah.
The scout dinner. I was a scout that's part of it. In any case, what pleased me is what he wrote, because I'm sure he said, Martin, tell me about this kid. And so my interpretation is what he said was my scoutmaster's opinion.
Yes.
I didn't give a damn what Teddy
Yeah.
Roosevelt
So
said.
where it came from, that
But
you
yeah.
thought that,
But
yeah.
thank you, Jack. And to me, that is the most precious thing I own, is that book. It's signed by Dan Beard, it's signed by Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Roosevelt was a brigadier general that went in on D-Day, insisted on going wading in with his own men.
Did he?
Unite
He died there.
in the 2nd Division. He went in and he moved in on it, and he gets credit for that. He died about 3 days later
Yeah.
of a heart attack or something. He was an older man. He had no business going in, but it's a family issue, you know.
Yeah.
But he was a nice guy, and hey, listen, well, yes, let me get rid of this
Yes,
junk
because
here.
he told me this.
You're gonna get all this
Gotta
anyhow.
remind me to tell them.
A sibling, and my house had, in fact, they had a grandchild who had Perthes disease of the bone. But my brother, whose son he was at work in Bermuda. So the grandparents took over the spare bedroom for the grandson, so there was no room in that house. But in any case, Jane Wile heard about it, and she got on the phone and she called Sis Adsit. That was Jib's dad's sister.
Yes.
Big tall lady, grand lady, a flapper from her time, long cigarette holder, clothes that draped,
Wow.
Yes, she
a
was.
bearing, princess,
Wow.
quality. And she could tell a dirty story better than anyone I've ever heard. But in any case, I knew her because Jim and I used to go down as kids, as I say, read the
Yes.
Sunday papers. So she knew who I was. So Jane called her and said, Sis, Ed and his bride and Jim's mom had fallen in love with my bride. She met her. She said, Ed, that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, whether she lied or not. She wasn't far wrong. She was a gorgeous woman. In any case, and a lovely partner, as you can imagine. But in any case, she put in the word for us. So
That's right, she was
we
young.
went down to see Aunt Sis.
This is when she was younger.
It was easy for me, she knew me and so forth. But what had happened was her daughter and son-in-law and
That's it, sis.
little granddaughter had to move to Pittsburgh. He was a big
Way
shot
before Flapper days.
with United States SEAL. In fact, he wanted me eventually to give up teaching and come out. He'd put me into a fast program for U.S. Steel. Dal and I go along very well, nice guy. But they had to move. So she's rattling around this big 6-room apartment, okay? And we fitted in just like a glove. She knew me since I was a kid. I knew her.
Yeah.
Pete was my nickname for my wife. She was a doll. She easily took to it. And she said, okay, we worked it out. We're gonna have a bath and a bedroom in the apartment. And we would pay 2/3. We had a cup, we put the money in for the groceries. She was a crackerjack cook, hated to clean up afterwards. So Pete got a job immediately as secretary to the principal of Flushing High School,
Oh,
so
okay.
she could walk to work. My dad, who was exhausted after 6 years of work at Stuyvesant, was ready to retire, but he's had a few more years. He got the job as a shop teacher at Flushing High School. So I had two of my family
In the same place.
at
Does anybody have a
Flushing
cough drop?
High School.
Yeah.
In any case, the deal was, she would cook, she loved to cook, and she was a crackerjack cook, but she would not do the dishes. We said we would do the dishes. Coming home every night from NYU, Pete coming from the high school, was a treat. We came up to our apartment, the table would be set, and Sis insisted on the best. Tablecloths, napkins,
You
silverware,
okay, Jen?
candle,
Just getting over a really bad cold.
candlelight, everything to the mood just right. And we would have the dinner of our life. She was
Wow.
a wizard cook. And then at the end, she'd light up a cigarette and she would reminisce about times in life and things like that.
Oh,
But
my.
more importantly, she realized that we kids were so green, you could pick the leaves off us. And she taught us what Limoges is. She taught us what percale means. She taught us about candles and lighting. And she realized that my wife came from a pedestrian Bronx family,
Mhm.
period. There was no glamour in her home whatsoever. And she learned the other side of life from Sis.
Wow, what an
And Sis
opportunity.
also insisted nothing but the finest china, sterling silver, cut glass, candlelight, always, never a light to dine with. This is what we look forward to every day. It was a
Wow.
treat.
Yeah.
We never knew what the menu was going to be, but our deal was at the end we did the dishes, okay, which is fair enough. But her last husband was a guy named Adsit, and he was vice president of Virginia Railways in charge of traffic, mucho dinero. His son, Edgar, was the president of of
21?
is it, I forgot the name wrong, but a liquor brand.
21 Club?
Club, there was a restaurant, there was a restaurant club too. It's a number, and it'll come to me in a minute. But in any case, he was president of the liquor company, the importing liquor company, and also a famous restaurant in the city. And so there was a closet at Sis's house. You have to believe me. You open the door, the back wall, from the ceiling down, bottles. The left
Wow.
wall, bottles. The right wall, bottles.
Wow.
Every conceivable liqueur, champagne, liquor that you can conceive, good quality only, was there. And as we kids were green as grass, she taught us how to serve wine, how to drink wine, what not to do with wine, how to mix drinks and so forth. She was very patient with me. And when she'd have a party, she called us her family. We participated, everyone, there's a grand piano in the next room, and I would be in charge of serving drinks and stuff like that, as like any son would be under the circumstances. And we had one hell of about a year and a half, I think. But the apartments were rent controlled. And this scoutmaster, Mark Freeman, was a naval officer, and during the war, he was skipper of an LST, the ones that open, they get landed at a beach and the front opens, and troops and tanks come out of it.
Okay.
It was LST, it was landing ship tank, LST, landing ship tank. He'd been in World War I as a seaman.
Wow.
And in the meantime, he had taken his training reserve, so he was a lieutenant, whatever it is, commander. And he was commander of one of the first fleet of those landing ships that started to make landings in the Pacific War. He made 7 landings, open up, the tanks would roar out, and stuff like that, back off. And when the war was over, he was, well, it wasn't quite over. When we put in his combat time, he came back and he was the personnel officer at the Coronado, California Naval Base.
Oh, by San Diego?
This is at the end of the war. The war is still on, but I mean, he had put in enough time
Yeah.
under fire that he was eligible for rotation. So he's there, and he found a farm boy from Iowa that was a wizard at craft work. He found a special building that no one knew of in the back of the field. He paid for the materials, and he kept this guy off a shipping list to make him a model of the boat that he sailed in combat.
Oh, wow.
And it was a split model, meaning it's about that, the hull was, yes, I'm so, forgive me, thank you.
That's all right. We're enjoying every word.
Jib announces that we found Emily, okay. I'd met her once. She was kind of shy type thing. And what I didn't understand was he was raised in the Episcopal Church, St. George's Episcopal in Flushing.
Yeah.
Now, his parents didn't attend with him. So there's no way that a kid alone is going to go to Sunday school, in my book, and come back with any feelings. So it was no surprise to me that he and Emily decided to shop around and find a faith that they could accept. And they took Catholicism, and I'm sure they did it deliberately, and it's great, you know. And in any case, he announces that he and Emily are going to get married. So we're going to have a bachelor party at the Officers Club on the Kings Point is it's on the
Military
North Shore.
Academy.
Yeah.
Kings Point Military Academy.
Kings what?
Kings Point,
Kings Point.
a Merchant Marine Academy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. No. This is a different one. This is not the academy. This is a special estate that the Officers Club, a private retired officers club, bought on its. It'll come up to me somewhere. In any case, it's on the North Shore of Long Island, and it's a big, beautiful mansion. They have a swimming pool, a bowling alley. This is a private home they were able to buy, and they had it staffed with cooks and stuff like that. We're gonna have a bachelor party for Jim, and so he dutifully came to it. We were all there, and you guys know bachelor parties. The jokes get kind of gamey, and we're teasing him and going through the whole thing. He's taking it the way any coming bridegroom is supposed to take it. He's supposed to be chagrined a little bit, like, I don't know what you're talking about. But he did his job beautifully that night. We found out later, he was married 3 days before.
According to Dad, the story is that my parents were moving to Baltimore. They had the apartment in
Grandparents,
Jackson.
Your
right?
grandparents.
My grandparents. My grandparents were moving to Baltimore. They had the apartment in Jackson Heights where Dad and Mom were going to live. And Mom was going to be alone there until the wedding day. And they didn't want any hanky-panky going on, so they went and got married in a civil ceremony prior, and then several days later were married at Church on the Hill. And Dad swears up and down, or swore up and down, that nothing happened until the marriage was blessed by a church. That the civil
Knowing Mom, it's
that
probably
the civil
true.
ceremony was just a
Well,
formality.
we did the same thing as they in Texas, the exact same thing.
Okay,
We didn't want it loused up.
right.
In the entire time that I knew your dad, from the first time as a little kid on, I promise you, we never had a crossword. And I think I'm more proud of that than anything.
Yeah,
Of course.
We did everything together,
it's
and
wonderful.
we shared, and one day, we were great, by the way, for taking roles. We'd go up in the attic and play with things, and today he's Jim and I'm Bill, tomorrow I'm Jim and he's Bill. And we talked in the voice that we thought that character would have, and we could lose ourselves with these blocks and these things, building houses, doing that, smashing things.
So much
Yeah.
imagination.
And we exactly, I understand
We're
his
both
IQ.
very smart guys,
Well, his
too.
IQ is what,
Yeah, you can see
148?
why they got along so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 148, that's very good.
That's Dad's IQ?
That's your father's IQ.
And did you guys go to Bayside High School together?
What's that?
Did you go to Bayside High School with you?
Yes, but he was a year
Yeah.
behind me.
That's what I
behind,
thought.
A year behind me, yeah.
Oh, what were you telling me about the fireworks that you got and had sent out to Colorado?
Oh, yes. Years ago, you could order fireworks from a company in Polk, Ohio, P-O-L-K, I remember that.
Yeah.
Polk, Ohio, you could order fireworks from a catalog, okay? And they were shipped through the mail. We did it for a couple of years, but the year, there was what, 34, 35 that we went to Colorado. We used to get the catalog every year. we memorized it. We could tell you the description of every kind
The
of
fireworks
firecracker.
had
And we save our money, and the year that we went to Colorado, we didn't know we were going to Colorado at that time. We did our work, we sent our order in to Polk, Ohio, to this fireworks company. We dealt with them before, but we had heard then that we were going to go to Colorado, so we had it addressed to Dan Macy, who was the lawyer for Dad's mining company, Russell Gulch Mining.
Right.
And Dan Macy was the attorney for them. And so when we first went across the country, we stayed 2 nights down along Cherry Street, I think it was, in Denver, at the Macy House. We stayed there 2 nights before going up to and the mail containing our box of fireworks had come to Macy's house. We gave that address. So we couldn't wait to open it, gleefully go through the fireworks we had there. No, did I miss something?
No.
No, you told Jennifer this story.
No. What kind of fireworks were they?
Well, you get these long strip ones, which if you light them, it goes brrr, you know, and all this dances around the floor. On the other hand, if you unwrap them, you get a whole bucket of little 1-inch ones you can light with a piece and throw them. And salutes and cherry bombs. Jane Wile, when we lived on Eureka Street in Colorado, bought strawberries, and they came in little wooden boats, thin slivers of just beautiful, maybe probably made in China, something like that. But these lovely little boxes that the strawberries came in, she gave us the empty boxes. We went across the street because the stream coming down Eureka Street was channeled with wood on the sides and wood on the bottom so that it would go right through town. It wouldn't ice up, would jam up in the wintertime. So it was like sluice boxes embedded in the ground. So we would go over and climb down into the swift-flowing stream over across the street and have the little box ready. We would light a cherry bomb, put it in the box, drop it, and watch it go down, and then blow up down below. That was the big thrill of the day. But no, fireworks, and then instantly, the reason he got cut on the wrist that time was this jerk miner coming up the street throwing firecrackers at people, and we were afraid, as I say, he was gonna hit us with it by far better. And but the war was a separation point. He did his thing, I did mine. And forgive me, but thanks, Zach, I appreciate it. I could go on like this, but my neck is gone. Right?
But we can talk at the restaurant.
Yeah, let's
You can eat and
let's
you can keep
saddle up now.
doing your
Right now.
stories.
You'll forgive me. The other thing, pit stop first. You guys can have the first one. I'm taking the one in the back. You guys
Okay.
take the one in the back. Wait for me if you will. But I think it's appropriate.
Love that
Boys.
as boys.
And he knew how not to be sloppy. There are dirty stories that I hate, but there are cute stories
Yeah.
that, if told properly, are funny as hell.
Yes.
And he knew how to tell a
Oh,
story.
that's
Now,
great.
this is in the neighborhood, this must have been some neighborhood person, I don't know who it is. That's Dad as a little boy, but that's taken in Flushing.
Yeah, I
I think
wouldn't.
he's too young then, right? You
I
were
wouldn't-
7 or
I
8.
wouldn't recognize either one of them.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Let you excuse me.
You saved me with that
I have to make a pit
Thank you.
stop.
Yes,
Okay,
sure.
Fred. But you know, right?
It's flowing over.
Jane and I always got along very well
She must have been glad to
because she treated me like another son.
You guys are on here.
You say, who is
Dave
that guy?
and Jack?
This is difficult for you to become. My parents, my mother. My mother heard about it, called, and volunteered, got dressed and went down and bathed her.
Is that when she broke her arm so badly in the car accident?
My mother heard about it, called, and volunteered, kid, got dressed and went down and bathed her.
Is that when she broke her arm so badly in the car accident?
Take a picture of it with you.
Oh, okay.
Hey, should we get everybody in the picture with the cake and the?
Johnny, move the
You're
cake
gonna
in
make
front
me
of it.
move? I'm like,
Yeah.
So Doug can take a picture.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'd like that. I usually avoid cameras with my face.
For our sake, do it for us.
There you go. English and Gordon. And Gordon is my favorite.
Emergency room. Did you see that? Got in the ER.
Yes. Aww.
I haven't learned to manipulate these things.
They're a little tricky.
I hide behind my generation.
Good for you.
I really,
Dad was quite handy with his iPad.
Well, you use a computer, right, or no?
well, I say, I think it uses me
Oh, okay.
more. If there was a while there, understand, there's a while there that I was extremely happy with it. I mastered it, I was doing fine, I had all the control. My daughter, my adopted daughter, was vice president of CNBC. She knows this stuff inside and out. English and Gordon. And Gordon is my favorite.
Emergency room. Did you see that? Got in the ER.
Yes. Aww.
I haven't learned to manipulate these things.
They're a little tricky.
I hide behind my generation.
Good for you.
I really,
Dad was quite handy with his iPad.
Well, you use a computer, right, or no?
well, I say, I think it uses me
Oh, okay.
more. If there was a while there, understand, there's a while there that I was extremely happy with it. I mastered it, I was doing fine, I had all the control. My daughter, my adopted daughter, was vice president of CNBC. She knows this stuff inside and out.